The Play is the Thing, with your host, Judy Sleed. Today's guest, Rabbi Sheldon Zimmerman. And now, the 8-time winner of Mother of the Year, my mom, Judy Sleed.
Thank you. I have all these medals. Rabbi Zimmerman, so happy to have you in my hot seat.
I'm so happy to be with you on your program, Judy.
And how are you today?
Doing well.
I always wanted to ask you this. Do you always wear that beautiful thing on your face, like the mustache and the...
I've had this beard on since I first went to the University of Toronto. And I've had it in different forms, sometimes a little longer, sometimes less, but I've been wearing the beard since then.
Because I don't think I would recognize you without it.
My family wouldn't either.
So, but you don't want to tell me how long it's been.
Well, let's see.
Years?
I would say that I started in the early 60s. I can't remember whether it was my first or second year there, but certainly since then, so the early 60s until today.
And you were already a rabbi then?
No. Then I was a student at the University of Toronto in the Department of Philosophy. And after that, I was in the School of Graduate Studies at Toronto, where I got my master's degree in philosophy. And then I went to rabbinical school.
No wonder you're so smart in every aspect, because you studied philosophy.
Sometimes that can make you smarter. Sometimes that works against being wise, you know.
No, I listened to some of your lectures that you give at the synagogue here in East Hampton, and I never cease to amaze me with your knowledge of so many different things.
Well, you know, first of all, it's wonderful to be the rabbi of a congregation with so many creative people as members. And you are one of the most creative, so it's wonderful to be with you and to be your rabbi and to have you in the congregation.
Oh, thank you.
And I love your work with our religious school as well, with the children.
Thank you so much. So let me just ask you this. You are from Canada.
Right, born and raised in Toronto.
In Toronto, you know Toronto Tom, right? Toronto Tom. So how did you, and I understand that you come from a family with all rabbis. Was it forced upon you, or you just?
No, not really. I'm the 11th generation from a rabbi who was known as Pinchas of Koritz, who was one of the colleagues of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism. And all the generations had rabbis. My father never practiced as a rabbi, but he had the right to do it if he wanted to. And so I'm that, and I have a son who's a rabbi, so he's the 12th generation.
Yeah, so how did you feel like growing up in a family of religious people, rabbis?
Well, there was a love. There was a love of tradition, a love of community. We were taught values of service to the community and how important it is to be a person who contributes to the welfare of the community in which we live. I was never forced to be a rabbi, and even my grandfather of blessed memory, who was the rabbi, had reservations. He said, you know, find something else for yourself. Perhaps it will be less aggravating, because at times the rabbinate can be aggravating as well.
I can imagine. I think you always think of that you have all these things to deal with, all these personalities, and then you have to be a rabbi to the congregation and all these other things, and I'm always wondering how you manage all that.
Well, hopefully they're very charitable in their judgments.
Yeah, and you have, like, you used to mention one time or another about your grandmother and her chopped liver.
The best, the very best. One grandmother's origin was in Poland, One grandmother came from the former Soviet Union and the area of the Ukraine, and they both had different ways of making it. And liking and having a sweet tooth and liking things sweet, I preferred the sweeter of the sweeter of the recipes, because there were two different recipes for everything. Russian, Polish, constant back and forth.
So you're a mixture of Russian and Polish.
Right.
Yes.
But the sweet side was very important to me.
You have any siblings?
Have a brother and a sister. My sister also studied philosophy and worked for many years as a librarian in the city of Toronto. My brother, who is younger than I, and my sister is younger as well, my brother works as a teacher at the Community Hebrew Academy in Toronto and as a lover of sports. He's the athletic director of what they call CHAT, the Community Hebrew Academy of Toronto.
And I know you travel sometimes back to where you came from.
Back to Toronto to visit. It's interesting, Toronto has developed into this wonderful city, and many people remain there through the generations. So I have many cousins, many friends who are still in Toronto, and it's a wonderful, wonderful community. The city has grown tremendously since I was a child.
And your children are married, right?
All 4 children are married. The oldest is a rabbi, and he lives in Dallas with his wife and 2 children. My next is a daughter. She lives in Cincinnati with her husband. She's a psychologist with 3 children. Then David, and you've seen them drop in and out over the last number of years. David had just got married. He has no children as yet. And then there's Mikol, our youngest, who is a Jewish educator and also happens to be married to a rabbi here on the island. So they just had a little baby girl.
So that's wonderful. You have all these family to go to visit, and you remember their names. It's wonderful.
It's good to remember their names. Sometimes I have trouble remembering their birthdays, but I do remember their names.
Yes, I mean, I have fewer names to remember, but, you know, I remember my children's names and birthday, but not so easily my grandchildren.
Well, we have to reach out and try to keep them in mind all the time.
Right, and so you've been around. You've been a rabbi for many different synagogues.
Right.
And
I began as a rabbi, assistant rabbi at Central Synagogue in New York. I was ordained in June of 1970. I was invited to become the assistant rabbi there. And when the senior rabbi, Dr. David Seligson of blessed memory, died, they asked me to take over as senior rabbi. So I was the senior rabbi there from 1972 to 1985. Then Judy and I left for Dallas, where I was the rabbi of Temple Emmanuel of Dallas, this large congregation in Dallas. Everything is larger in Texas. And
Yes.
So we had about 2,800 families who were members of the congregation. And after that, I left to become president of the Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, and its 4 learning centers in Jerusalem, Cincinnati, New York, and Los Angeles. And it's the school that ordains rabbis and cantors for the Reform movement and educators, both here and in Israel. It's interesting that Debbie, our wonderful Debbie Stein, who's the cantor at the congregation, was one of my students.
so you ordained her as a cantor?
No, I had already left for Dallas. I was an adjunct teacher there, but she was one of my students, and I'm delighted that we've been reconnected, coming back here, and we're serving together. It's rare to have a student and her teacher serving together in the same congregation, but we are, and it's wonderful.
It is that I heard somehow that you ordained a lot of rabbis.
Yes.
And 1 female cantor.
Well, no, I've ordained more than 1 female cantor.
Oh, you
I've
were
ordained.
the first one to ordain a female?
Well, no, I was one of the first male rabbis to invite a female rabbi to come as my assistant. Rabbi Deborah Prinz, who was the 4th woman to be ordained as a rabbi by the Hebrew Union College in 1978. She was the 4th. She joined me at Central Synagogue as my assistant, and we've been close friends all these years. And she does wonderful, wonderful work.
So you're not only a rabbi, but you've done other things to help things
Well,
move
I
along.
think it's very important. Rabbis cannot live in ivory towers. You can't sit inside the four walls of your sanctuary and let the world go by outside. To be a rabbi, I think, means to bring to the community our concerns as American Jews with the world outside of us, with the community. One of the most wonderful things we do here in East Hampton is that the ministers of the churches in town and in the village, and we at the Jewish Center have a soup kitchen for those who are hungry. We have a soup kitchen for those who are here with their families and need a hot meal during the cold months. We support the food pantries. We are out there to house the homeless, and I know you've participated in that as
Yes.
well through Maureen's Haven. We're the only synagogue. The Jewish Center of the Hamptons is the only synagogue in the East End that's involved in providing a place for the homeless to sleep during the months of November through March. And that's what it means to be an American Jew, a Jew, that we care for those who are in need, no matter what the religion, no matter what the faith, no matter what the political leanings. That's part of what we believe as American Jews.
Yes, I noticed that in your sermons, you always talk about what's happening around the world. You're always telling us and
Well, the
invite-
prophet, right? Judy, you're so right. The prophet Jeremiah, who lived in the 6th century before the Common Era, wrote a letter to the Jews who had been exiled to Babylonia. And he said, always be concerned about the welfare of the city in which you live. Because if you're concerned, and if you participate in its life, and if you are a good citizen, you will bring peace to that city and be concerned for its welfare. And that said, 500 to 18, so let's say 2,500 years ago, he wrote those words to the Jews who lived in
Wow.
Babylonia. Be a good citizen. Take
Right.
care of others.
yes, that's a very good message, and you're always giving good messages.
Well, I hope I am. But it's wonderful to have a community where people like yourself are involved in the community. We always know that whenever we need someone who is willing to give of her time and to reach out, you will do it. And that's why
Right.
it's such a pleasure and privilege to be a rabbi.
Oh, you're so sweet. And you talked about your wife, who is my namesake.
Yes, Judith, and Judy. Judy is a social worker who is retired now, but she has worked with children and with families wherever we lived. First in New York, then in Dallas, and then in Cincinnati as well.
And how long have you been married?
We have been married. This August will be 49 years.
Oh my gosh, that's just a number.
It really is just a number. We'll be entering into our 50th year of marriage, which is very exciting.
It's going to be a big celebration.
Well, I hope so for all of us, yes.
Are you planning on it, or it's going to be a surprise?
Well, I'm planning, but we haven't quite decided yet how to do it.
Oh my gosh, I have to make a big party for you.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
And where did you meet?
We met, interestingly enough, we were both members of the B'nai B'rith Youth Organization. And she grew up in Buffalo, and even though I grew up in Toronto, we hadn't yet met. But the summer that I was at a conference and a convention of the boys' part of the organization, and she was there at the girls' part of the organization, B'nai B'rith Girls, my sister introduced us.
Oh,
And from that day on, I knew that she was the woman for me.
oh, obviously she thought you were the man for her.
I hope so. I hope so.
Because she said yes.
Yes, it's been a long time, right? It's been a long time.
Yeah,
now.
well, that's wonderful. You must have developed a a good relationship.
I think a good relationship, a significant relationship, of course, And the sharing of values helps.
Right. And since you've been married a long time, which is very rare nowadays, would you say you have to work on the marriage?
I think you have to work on your marriage and your love each and every day. Each and every day. It's like a plant. If you don't take care of it, if you don't water it, make sure it gets enough sun if it's a plant that likes that much sun. If you aren't tender and caring, it won't survive. Marriage requires continual work and growing on both human beings' parts, because we grow. I'm not the person I was when I got married.
So true, yes.
And so we have to work on it every day.
Right.
But it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to work on it with her.
And since you have so much wisdom, do you give that to, do other people come for you for advice, for things, problems?
I've been very blessed. I've been very blessed that many people come and share their concerns, sometimes their anxieties, sometimes their needs, and it is a special privilege to be able to help when I can, and to learn from them as well. You know, Judy, and we've talked many times, you and I, about all kinds of things. I've learned a great deal from you too. There's this wonderful phrase in the Bible which says, "From all of those who've studied with me, I have gained wisdom. Mikol malamdai hiskalti, I've gained seichel." And one of the great things for me has been to learn from those who study with me, who share their thoughts, their concerns with me, who come in sometimes for help, and yet I learn from them about life, about the meaning of their lives, about the values they're reaching for. It's back and forth. It's not a one-way relationship ever.
Well, that makes you a great person.
That I don't know, but I will tell you that.
It is.
Yeah, but I will tell you that each of us is a unique human being. Each of us. You have your history. You have a wonderful, wonderful set of skills that touch and bless other people. You have great wisdom. I've seen you use that wisdom with your children. And I feel that each one of us has something that we can teach other human beings. And the idea is for the rabbi to get out of the way and let others do some teaching as well. I think that's important.
Well, that's great, because sometimes when people, the word complain to others, they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And like you say, that you are learning from their problems.
Well, you know what King Solomon said? He said, when God asked me, "What do you want?" I asked for a wise heart. We have to have knowledge, but we have to have good hearts to care compassionately and empathetically about other human beings. We're all created in God's image, and each of us is a unique person.
So besides, as I said, we talked about you being a rabbi and people come and complain to you, help them. You give classes.
Oh, we have lots of classes, because I believe that part of being a person of faith today, whether you're a Jew or a Christian or a Buddhist or a Muslim, doesn't matter who you, what you are in terms of faith, the teachings of the faith are important. And especially for us as Jews. For our Torah became the basis not only of our faith, but became the basis of Christian faith as well. Our Bible is part of Christian scripture. They've studied it, Christians have learned from it, their values are from it. The founders of Christianity were those who learned it and learned from it. Even the Muslim community has learned many values from Judaism. Muhammad did study parts of what Judaism meant and its teachings.
I always hear that when you talk about things, but it's so true. But I didn't know that before.
But it's very, very important. And what's wonderful in this community, Judy, is that the ministers of other religions, Monsignor Hansen at Most Holy Trinity, and the others, Father Dennis at St. Luke's Episcopal Church. And all of the others are together in a group called the Clericus, the Interfaith Association of Ministers in East Hampton. And we study with each other, we learn from each other. It's my hope to get a couple of them maybe to teach a class at the Jewish Center of the Hamptons. Wouldn't that be wonderful to be able to learn with and from each other? It's the only way to build bridges of understanding.
And that was going to be my next question, and you already answered it. I was going to ask you what you would like to do in the future.
Well, I'll tell you what we need to do. There are lots of people in need in this community. There are many people who are in need, sometimes of a meal, sometimes of a listening ear. There are many students at the high school and others who need to learn about respect for each and every one, whatever their person's sexual orientation may be, and not to bully and to care people for each other. We have much to learn and to teach with each other. And I think this community is open to that kind of teaching, that we need to feed the hungry, to house the homeless, to create justice, a place of justice, to make sure our educational system touches and blesses each family in this community. And I think the other ministers with me and with the Cantor are concerned that that becomes the hallmark of what it means to be a community today.
So what you're saying, you hope to give classes like that in the
I think it
synagogue?
would be wonderful.
I think
Wonderful
it
for
would
each
be
of us.
wonderful too.
But
Yes.
let's not forget who helps in the synagogue. You help. You help teach the children. Isn't that wonderful when people like yourself, who aren't rabbis, who aren't cantors, you could be a wonderful rabbi, Judy, but who aren't rabbis, who aren't cantors, but who come to help. And I know you're there almost every Sunday morning. You are there to help the children. And that is something that it just doesn't happen. It tells us something about you and about your values and about the community that you want to be a part of.
Right. Well, I'm so happy that you are in our community because you have a lot of wonderful values, and that you want to give more, because right now you are giving certain classes every week. And not only here, you extended this to Manhattan.
Right, because our congregation is unique. Unlike many congregations, we have people who live where the synagogue is, and some who just come during the summer or weekends, but they're also members. So we have classes in Manhattan. Some of our people work there or have homes there to teach them as well. 20, 25 people each week come to study during the fall, winter, and spring.
In the city, in Manhattan?
In the city, in Manhattan itself.
So is it only for classes, or you have like studies for children too?
Well,
the school?
We're hoping to expand our outreach to the community who lives in the city, outside of East Hampton, in the city as well.
That's a lot of work for you.
Yes, it's very busy.
Schlepping back and forth.
Well, I was thinking of getting myself a T-shirt, Schlepper of the Year award, I schlep back and forth.
Yes, and you and the Cantor
Yes, we
travel.
both
You both go to the city.
and teach and work with children as well as adults.
And do you do that in one day, or you stay over?
Generally, we try to do it in one day, but if we have to stay over, we do.
Because that's a lot of it's a lot of traveling.
Traveling back and forth,
Yes.
it can be tiring,
Yeah.
but it's for a great cause, to
Right.
bring a wonderful tradition to young hearts, young minds, and to adults as well.
And you do a lot of weddings and funerals.
Sadly, yes, we have to be there for people throughout their lives, and that's the kind of community we need to be. We have
I don't know how you fit in all that.
I
in your
really don't
schedule.
either. I just get tired looking at my calendar sometimes.
Judy must be very lonesome.
At times, and
Yeah.
but thank goodness she speaks up, but nicely, to remind me, a rabbi is also a human being and
Yeah.
a husband. And there are needs for us to serve as parents and as grandparents and as husbands and wives as well.
I know she's very caring for you, because one time I remember she was worried about you. You took off with your car there was something wrong with the car, and she said you shouldn't have taken the car.
No, I told you, that was not a good idea, but I did take off.
Yes, so, and like you said, so you fixed the car, did you say?
The car is fixed.
The car
It's
is
working now, so I'm okay.
So when you go to the city, you take the jitney or you drive?
I drove many times, and the people have prevailed on me, better take the bus and let somebody else do the driving. And it gives me a chance to read, to prepare,
Right.
sometimes
Yes.
even to take a little nap.
Well, it's been so wonderful chatting with you.
Well, I want you to know how much we appreciate all the good and wonderful things you do. May
Well,
you continue for many years.
Well, thank you. The same to you. And I never had a rabbi in my seat before. And I just never knew what the rabbi's life is, except that those books.
Lots of books.
The rabbi slept here. The Saturday,
right.
the rabbi didn't sleep. Or what are those books?
Wonderful, the Kemmelman books, Harry Kemmelman's
Yes,
books.
that's the only thing I knew about rabbis. I never knew about your background or anything, like all the things that you just shared with me and the world.
And the
The
world.
world.
And the world. So thank
So-
you for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody here at LTV. And today I didn't have my hair done by Lupita, but I want to thank all my underwriters, and their names are going to be coming up who helped this program come.
And
Alive.
my message to them is keep Judy doing this wonderful work.
Yes. And I'll see you, as they say, I'll see you in church.
We'll see each other in church, that's right.
Right. So, this program.
Love me,